I can do a variety of things.
Unfortunately, Brent Musburger has once again made himself the headline. If unaware, Musburger has been a staple in sports media for almost 50 years. He has broadcasted for corporate entities, ABC, CBS, ESPN, and called countless sporting events. However, his recent comments, as he reflects back then at age 73 on his ogling of then collegiate student Catherine Webb, has reignited a theme of Musburgers throughout the years. Musburger, now 83 years of age, is repeating the same tropes many others have in right-wing circles. On a recent podcast, Musburger said this of his flirtatious rhetoric of Webb.
Coach Kelly, who I know very well, now down at LSU, having left Notre Dame, I still tease him that when he got blown out by Alabama in that national championship game, I took all the heat off him because I called a beauty queen beautiful, and that I was the villain that night in the eyes of many, especially the woke journalists with some of the papers.
First things first, his use of the word woke is symbolic of right-wingers who intentionally misuse it.
I realize I'm in the crosshairs of the woke mob right now, so before my final nail gets put in my cancel culture casket.
Including Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers.
This use of the word woke. I think Aaron Rodgers needs to realize that when you look in the dictionary, woke is an adjective meaning that you're alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. And it is something that originated in the African American community. And he should, using it in that way is despicable and very dismissive to the origin of the term.
Right-wingers, especially those like Musburger, do this on purpose.
The elite media, the woke mob.
From a sitting United States senator.
In our schools, you've seen it. Our kids are behind because they want to be woke.
To an unqualified candidate in Herschel Walker.
The only reason Americans have put up with the endless woke garbage.
And even right-wing propaganda machines like Fox News. As one Republican aide told NBC, anti-woke messaging is everywhere now because it kind of works to say it. It's just like you see something working and you're just going to keep going with it. And that's exactly what Musburger is doing. In many ways, casting people on the left as too woke and eager to cancel their critics is just the present-day equivalent of attacks from the right against outside agitators, civil rights activists in the 60s, the politically correct liberal college students in the 80s and 90s, and activist judges or liberal judges in the 2000s, wrote the 538. However, Musburger has now opened up the Pandora's box on his history of racial issues. Recall the 1968 Olympics, when Tommy Smith and John Carlos protested after winning gold and bronze in the 200-meter race. Smith and Carlos looked like a couple of black-skinned stormtroopers, Musburger wrote in 1968 in a column that ripped the athletes for having the audacity to use the Olympic podium to protest against institutionalized racism. Musburger called Smith and Carlos juvenile, ignoble, and unimaginative, without ever actually addressing the righteousness of their protest. He would add, one gets a little tired of having the United States run down by athletes who are enjoying themselves at the expense of their country, which is quite an odd take. Quick question. If these two men were, in your eyes, enjoying themselves in this country, don't you think they wouldn't have protested? I mean, this is simple A to B. Why would they go up there, be ridiculed by people like you, and even worse, not be able to land a job because of their protest? Why would they go up there and make themselves the sacrificial lambs? Why? Because of racism, and they're demanding change. So easy. In the aftermath, Musburger would question the value of the gloved fist salute. Did it improve anything, he asked, then added, Smith and Carlos aside, I object to using the Olympic awards stand to make a political statement. Quick note, sports have always been political. The Olympics has always been political. If you truly believe that those two statements are untrue, I strongly suggest you go get your head checked. Avery Brundage, a Nazi sympathizer who was head of the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, was given the nickname Slavery Avery for his racist practices.
Brundage was stubborn, pig-headed. He was a bigot.
Longtime journalist, author, and historian on sports Jeremy Schaap spoke of Brundage's past. Musburger refers to Brundage as a kindly old grandfather, and with great affection addresses him as Avery. No mention, of course, that many of the athletes called him Slavery Avery. Oddly enough, Musburger, who goes to bat for Avery Brundage, then projects, mainly with Smith and Carlos. We are talking about someone who compared us to Nazis. Think about that, said John Carlos. Here we are standing up to apartheid and to a man in Avery Brundage who delivered the Olympics to Hitler's Germany. And here's Musburger calling us Nazis. That got around. It followed us. It hurt us. It hurt my wife, my kids. I've never been able to confront him about why he did this. Every time I've been at a function or an event with Brent Musburger and I walk towards him, he heads the other way. He still has not apologized for his comments, and he simply refuses to address it. Is it any surprise Musburger, the same man who went after black athletes protesting, would espouse bigotry on his own Twitter account using the same racist nickname as Donald Trump to mock Senator Elizabeth Warren? Would one be shocked to learn he claimed the 49ers instigated their protests when, as we know, it was solely Colin Kaepernick and only Colin Kaepernick until teammate Eric Reid joined him? Musburger despised it. Another man who hated the protests? Former NFL coach John Gruden, who was found to have written in emails that the players who protested should be unemployed, which sounds quite familiar, doesn't it?
You have to stand proudly for the national anthem. Well, you shouldn't be playing. You shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be in the country.
And you remember Gruden's emails, right?
NFL coach and former Monday Night Football analyst John Gruden announcing his exit as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders after emails uncovered as part of a separate investigation revealed a torrent of sexist, racist, anti-gay language aimed at a slew of targets ranging from players to league officials. It was learned Gruden used a racist trope to describe NFL Union Chief DeMaurice Smith in a 2011 email, writing Dumborius Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires, showing Gruden using offensive language to insult NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, also calling the league's first openly gay player Michael Sam a queer, disparaging players who protested during the national anthem, panning the hiring of female referees, and mocking league efforts to reduce concussions.
It wasn't just something that crossed his mind, which is bad, but that he then took that thought, formalized it in a writing, and hit send. People say all sorts of things sort of on the cuff that they shouldn't. This is more than that.
So, of course, like clockwork, Musburger dismissed Gruden's bigotry towards the LGBTQ community, towards black players, and misogyny. Instead, Musburger came out in defense of John Gruden.